Baskerville Productions presents Adventures in Zombiewood.
Welcome to a how-to-play video for Adventures in Zombiewood by Baskerville Productions. We'll start with the setup. You have your celebrity deck that you'll want on hand. Those are the zombies that will be faced throughout the game. We have an actor deck that will need to be created based on the number of players in your game. You want 4 times the number of players. That's how many cards you want for your actor deck. I've got set up here for a 3-player game, so we've got a total of 12 cards in there. You can choose them randomly, or you can go through and pick and choose which actors you want based on things like their dice pools and their special abilities that we'll get to here in a moment. You'll also want to choose 3 locations out of the possible options, and the idea here is you're shooting a remake of your favorite zombie film, or making one up if you prefer. And so here we've got, we're going to be going from the house to the apartment and ending up at the pub. Each of those locations is referred to as an act. We will shoot 4 scenes at each location, so basically 4 scenes per act. Each scene is essentially 1 round, and I'll just let you figure out if you know what movie we might be recreating here. Then you've got the plot twist deck. This may or may not come into use depending on what locations you chose to set up your movie, and the scavenge deck that we'll be drawing from to gain various items throughout the game. Each player will be given 1 6-shooter, as well as 3 bullet tokens to be loaded, in addition to 3 random scavenge cards from the scavenge deck. Alright, now let's jump into the gameplay. The game, as I mentioned, is broken into 3 acts, each act at a location, and each act has 4 scenes, which we can think of as rounds. So to start off a scene or a round, whoever is determined to be the first player will take your actor deck and will simply deal the top actors from the deck to the players in the game. We'll say going clockwise, so we'll just say that I was the first player, and we're playing a 3-player game. So there are the top 3 actors dealt, and that will be the actor that each player is in control of for this given scene, for the single round. Now for the spawn phase, we will be drawing a number of celebrity cards from the celebrity deck equal to the number of players in the game. So for a 3-player game, we will draw 3 cards. We will place them down here in the middle of the table. So what we have here are essentially the 3 types of celebrity. There's a standard celebrity with various names and various numbers of symbols. Then we have this specific Prima Donna the Dead celebrity that has that clapboard symbol there at the bottom. That clapboard symbol may come into play, depending on the locations you've chosen, if a clapboard is a part of the requirement to a specific location. So at that point, you would want to reference the location description. Also, the 3rd kind of celebrity is what we refer to as a fatal finalist. You have the bloody handprint down there at the bottom. Anytime this celebrity is drawn, you actually remove them from the scene. Now they do count towards your total spawn, so you don't replace them. But you remove them from the scene and you place them off to the side in what we'll refer to as the horde pile. Because at the end of your movie, after your 3 acts with 4 scenes each, you will face a horde that is accumulated of various zombies, both the fatal finalist zombies as well as potentially others. So, to determine who is going to face the celebrities, we have 3 actors and only 2 celebrities, so someone's going to get to sit out of the combat round. So to figure that out, we want to look at each actor's attack dice pool, or combat pool here. That is signifying what dice that actor would start with in a combat with a celebrity. So, to understand the dice, let's look a little more at the 3 possible dice options. There's red, blue, and green. Think of them as weak, medium, and strong. All 3 dice have faces for a axe, a bat, and an explosion symbol. But then the other faces vary. So for this weak die, we actually have 2 ZW sides, which for the purposes of combat are actually blanks. And then you do have one side with a axe and a bat, which counts as both symbols combined together. For the blue die, besides the 3 standard faces, there's a single ZW, single blank. So there is a double bat side as well as a double axe side, making it a little stronger. For the green die, there is actually no ZWs, no blanks. So besides the 3 individual icons, you have a double explosion side, you have a bat and axe side, and then you have the coveted all 3 symbols on one side. And again, each of these would count for, like this side would count for an axe, a bat, and an explosion, all on one side as you're working towards satisfying the celebrity's requirements, which we'll get to here in a second. So that's the 3 dice, understanding kind of the weak, medium, and strong as you're looking at your actor's initial dice pool. Now, before choosing which actors will face which celebrities, it's important to know the role of your scavenge cards as well. So, there are 3 types of scavenge cards. You have the cards that will add a die to your combat pool. So, if you have any cards like this, you can play them. They are one-time uses. But if you were to play that die, this card rather, this would actually allow you to roll a red in addition to your attack pool dice there. Any number of these can be played. You can make your dice pool as large as you want. However, there is an aspect to combat that we'll get to if you are playing what I'll call the timed version of this game that could be impacted by how many dice you're going to need to roll with your combat. So those cards there can add dice to your pool that you're going to roll. Now, let's just, for instance, say this character has his 3 blues and a green, and we've given him the red, so he has those dice to roll, and we'll say that he chose to take on this particular celebrity right here. Well, and that's a horrible roll, but let's just say he rolls and is maybe just an axe or a bat short or something along those lines. There are other cards in the deck that in the top right corner have a single icon, and so those can be spent after a roll to add on that additional icon. So again, if this roll here were perhaps just a single bat short of taking out this celebrity and meeting all the requirements, and you had this card, you could play this card, and that would meet the requirements and would defeat the celebrity. And the last type of scavenge card is the star power card. There are various star power cards in the deck, and they are spent, again, also one-time use to activate your particular actor's star power ability. As I mentioned, there are 6 different star power abilities. You'll want to read those closely to determine when they can be used. Some have a specific phase of the game that they impact. Like this particular one here, upgrading 2 blues to 2 greens would mean this character would have been able to roll 3 greens and a blue, again, assuming I had this card and had spent it prior to rolling my dice. So that is how these cards are used. Again, all scavenge cards are one-time uses, and then they go into the discard pile, which can get reshuffled if the scavenge deck runs out. And one additional resource that you have at your disposal will be your bullets in your 6-shooter. So at any point during your turn, you can use a bullet, and reroll any number of your combat dice. Certainly, I think I'd like to reroll those, most likely. And so, you can do so to reroll those dice, and then, depending on how they come up, you could choose to spend another bullet, and you could even reroll a different set of dice, perhaps. So no dice are ever locked. You're free to reroll any number of dice that you'd like multiple times to try to achieve the symbols on the celebrity that you're facing. Now, bullets can be spent to help other people in their fight as well. This is part of the cooperative aspect. And so let's just say, for instance, if that character is facing that celebrity, but I've got bullets, perhaps I've got a lot of bullets and she doesn't have any, then I could spend my bullet as if I'm shooting over into her fight, and that would allow her, if she were attacking the zombie, my bullet spent would allow her to reroll up to 2 of her combat dice. So, spending a bullet in your own fight allows you to reroll any number that you want. Spending a bullet to assist in someone else's fight would allow them to reroll up to 2. Now, as I mentioned, with 3 actors here and only 2 celebrities, someone will be sitting out. We probably actually wouldn't have her fight him because she is the weakest with those red dice especially, unless she gets some great item cards. But, for instance, if we said that we were the ones that were going to be taking on these celebrities, she is still able to do things like activate her star power ability or spend her bullets to assist in our fight. She just isn't fighting a celebrity specifically. Now, once you've decided which actors or which players are going to fight which zombies, then the combat phase actually begins, and the intended way to play the combat phase is actually with a timer. We include a sand timer in the game box, as well as if you visit the website, www.baskervilleproductions.com/timer, you can find some audio tracks to serve as a timer, but also there you will find a link to our Google Play timer app that we've created as well. And there are various timers based on various player counts. It's 1 minute for a 2 and 3 player game, and 2 minutes for a 4 and 5 player game. Again, also referenced there in the rulebooks. And so, whether you play with a timer or not, I probably wouldn't recommend it the first time, maybe the first couple times that you're trying out the game, getting familiar with the cards and the dice and the mechanics. But it really does amp up this portion of the game, as much as it is a kind of a dice puzzle, determining which ones you want to re-roll, but then having to do it, with the pressure of a time limit imposed, as well as the fact that the game only comes with 5 red, 5 blue, and 5 green dice in total. And especially for larger player count games like 3, 4, and 5, it's basically impossible, or very unlikely, that everyone will be able to roll their combat dice at the same time. So then you want to strategically set up who will be rolling, and when they're finished, who will be getting the dice, because you'll be up against the timer, and we need everyone to defeat their celebrities before the time runs out. So that's, again, a way to really amp up the excitement there during the combat phase. But I would say do that whenever you feel you're ready. And so, as I mentioned, the goal is to meet the requirements of the particular celebrity card to defeat them, in which case you just put them off into the discard pile, not the horde pile. So that's a defeated celebrity. And once everyone has defeated all their celebrities, the scene is over. Or, if you're playing the timed version, once the timer runs out, the scene is over. Now, let's talk about what happens if the timer runs out, or if a player is unable to defeat their celebrity. Let me get rid of this guy for the moment. And let's just say I'm in a battle with this celebrity, and maybe I'm out of rerolls. I don't have the right cards or star power abilities. No one else is able to help me. Or maybe I just give up. Maybe I think this guy is just too difficult to beat, and I don't want to waste the resources or have others waste the resources for me to beat him. So if I decide to stop fighting him, or if I'm unable to defeat him, or in the timed version, if the timer has run up and a celebrity is not defeated, then that celebrity takes out this actor. And so you then take this actor, you flip them over, and they have now become a celebrity themselves, and both of these celebrities are going to go into your horde pile, that one you're creating off to the side. So your horde is just grown for that final scene at the end of your movie. So, not a great thing to lose your actors, first of all. And second of all, they are now extra zombies you're going to have to face at the end of your game in the horde. Now to the scavenge phase. Let's assume he's back here. And we'll say that the celebrities have all been defeated, and we have all of our actors remaining. So for anyone who has an actor remaining, you will then reference your scavenge icons down there. So this is telling me I'm going to roll a red die and a blue die for those symbols we see in my scavenge stat. So I'll take those dice and roll them, and then you will look at the number of symbols that show up. So if I look at this red die, this single symbol, that's telling me that I'm able to draw one card from the scavenge deck. Essentially what I went out and found after the round. So I can add that to my hand of cards. There's no card limit. You can stockpile as many cards as you want to. So, again, with the symbols. Now, ZW, remember, that actually counts as a 0. That's a blank. So I would have found no item cards whatsoever. So the 1 symbols, or if you do have the 2 symbols on one side, then that would have meant I would have found 2 item cards, or 2 scavenge cards during the scavenge. Same with the other die, whatever you have assigned to your bullets, same thing. ZWs mean you found no bullets. A single image means you're going to get to reload 1 bullet into your 6-shooter. 2 symbols would mean 2 bullets, and then of course the green die does have the 3 symbols for 3 bullets. Now, I mentioned there's no card limit, but there is a limit of having up to 6 bullets in your 6-shooter. And one quick clarification, for any actor that does have matching colors, like here you have blue on both the cards and bullets, you would roll 2 blue dice, and after rolling them, you actually could determine which one applies to which thing you're looking for. You can't combine them for one, but you could say it's 0 cards and 1 bullet, or 1 card and 0 bullets. So you have that flexibility for an actor like that. Also, the scavenge phase is not timed. The combat phase is the only timed phase of the game, so actors can roll in any order as far as determining what they want to scavenge. So at the end of the scene, you would discard any item cards that were used by any of the actors. Those would go into the discard pile, again to be reshuffled whenever you need more scavenge cards in a scavenge deck. You would also take the actors that were used, and you would put them in the actor discard pile. There should be enough actors to supply the first 4 scenes of your first act, and then at which point you'll be reshuffling your actor deck to set up your next act. Now, if you lose actors to celebrities and they've joined the Horde, then you'll have to shuffle a little more often, but you will always want to have that deck ready so that you can start your next scene by drawing new actors for each of your players. But it's at that point that you are finished with one scene and ready to begin the next. And after completing 4 scenes at a given location, you have cleared that location and finished that act, and you are ready to move on to the next act at the next location. And after finishing all 3 acts and clearing all 3 locations, if you make it that far, then you are ready to take on the Horde that has assembled throughout your movie. So when you've reached the end of your movie, you have to face the Horde that's accumulated throughout your film. You should have a Horde pile off to the side, certainly full of some fatal finalist celebrities, as well as any of those celebrities that managed to survive and take out one of your actors as well. So give that deck a decent shuffle, and I'll just place that there in the center. Now, you'll also have your surviving actors, the ones that did not end up there in your Horde pile. So, at this point, you actually take the time as a group to look through all of them and see who's left to choose from. And each person, each player, will choose 2 actors. There may be more than that available, there may be less, in which case, good luck. But if there are, at most, 2 actor cards per player, then you want to kind of separate them out. Certainly suggest giving everyone at least 1 good fighter, meaning someone with the green dice in their attack pool. So like that's a good fighter with 2 green dice. There's a couple here. Basically, the ones that involve the red dice, they're not the best for Horde mode, mainly because their star powers aren't the greatest in Horde mode either. They're better for your scavenging during the game, as well as some good abilities in individual scenes, but they're not that effective during the Horde mode specifically. So, I've got a couple here that I definitely see with greens. I think the rest involve some form of red die or not. So perhaps I'll take a couple here that have the single red die. Something like that, perhaps. Actually, I'll use that guy. That lady there. So, for our 3-player game, we would actually just put the rest of these actors off to the side. Don't get rid of them yet. Don't put them back in the box. We're going to want them. But with these 6 actors, we would then have each player control 2 of them. Now, each player also has amassed whatever collection of scavenge cards, item cards throughout the game, and hopefully you've definitely got some at this point as well. They are still all going to be the same kind of one-time use cards throughout this battle, but the way this works a little differently. It is also timed. There's the timer mechanic in there. For a 2 or 3 player game, the Horde is a 3-minute timer, and for a 4 and 5 player game, it's a 5-minute timer. And the way it works is you simply take your Horde pile, and when you're ready, you start the timer, and then you start dealing 1 celebrity to each player. And then those celebrities must be defeated before new celebrities can be dealt, and dealt with. And so that's kind of the idea. You see your celebrity, you decide which of your actors you want to face that celebrity. Generally speaking, you'll probably choose the more powerful one. However, depending on the exact star power abilities, you might want to have access to a star power ability instead over just an extra die. So that's all the strategy of who you want to send out there. But you send them out there, and again, as the timer's running, you're rolling your dice, trying to defeat the zombie, using all the cards and the bullets in the same way as during the regular combat phase. You can assist each other with bullets. The only difference is there is no scavenge phase during the horde. So whatever you stockpiled, your bullets and your items, have to last you the entire horde mode. Also, if at any point a player decides they can't defeat this zombie, or it's not worth it, or they run out of resources, then just like a regular zombification, being zombified, you will flip that actor card over. They are now a celebrity, and we'll just move those two, let's say, the one that beat him and the actor, we will move them to the bottom of the deck, bottom of the horde pile, and you'll continue. So you can run out of all your actors as well during the horde at the end of your movie. So it's at this point that you've completed your movie. So first of all, congratulations. But now what you want to do is you want to count up how many remaining and still alive actors you have left. So that includes the ones that were chosen for the horde, as well as any of the ones that were not, that survived the 3 acts of the game. So you want to count up the total number of actors that are left. So you will want to reference the last page of the rule book, where based on player count, it will give you the star rating for the movie you've shot. And as you look at this chart here, the idea is, let's say you're shooting a 3-player game, and at the end you have all 12 actors still intact. No one got zombified. Well, that sounds like a pretty boring zombie movie. So you succeeded, you beat the game, you survived, but you're going to get a 1-star rating on that movie because it was probably kind of boring. Whereas if you lost some people along the way, if I count up who's left here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 8 actors left at this point, that looks like that would have actually earned a 3-star rating, because we definitely suffered some casualties, so we'd assume there are some exciting moments, some fun scenes shot in our movie there. So there you go. Hopefully you feel prepared now to go and take on this celebrity horde and shoot that remake. And then maybe you're able to survive long enough to see what the critics thought of it. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your playthrough of Adventures in Zombiewood.